It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, not that time where an old fat man with a beard creeps into everyone's houses to celebrate the birth of a completely unrelated person to him from thousands of years ago. More like Christmas in July. The All Star Game and its festivities will be taking place in Texas this year, and we now have not just an idea of who will be representing each team, but more like an exact picture of who will be representing the American and National League. As expected, there are tons of players 1000% deserving of being named an All-Star, and some not as deserving as others, or some players who were snubbed, and that's what we're going to go through. And speaking of getting the honor of being an All-Star, Wander Franco is a guy who had the choice to either be an All-Star or a Predator and talk to little children. He boldly chose the second option, and a big plot twist, and also isn't subscribed to this channel. Do you really want to be like Wander Franco? There's a whole lot of wrong there. So if you're part of the 70% of viewers not subscribed yet, come aboard and join the wonderful people unlike Wander Franco who are subscribed to the channel. As let's start with the starters for the American League lineup. It really isn't controversial at all. I mean, if you just look at the names from top to bottom, it makes sense, but just in doing a little further digging, it makes perfect sense. Adley Rutschman is the starting catcher, and he's by pretty far been the best, providing the most value in terms of hitting and defense behind the plate, just doing exactly what's expected of him in Baltimore. He's amazing. Vladdy Jr. is the starting first baseman, deservingly so. Is he what he was in his MVP runner-up year in 2021? No, and he hasn't been close to that since. So he may not be an MVP caliber player right now, but Vladdy is still one of the best first basemen in the league and continues to prove that by being the starter at first for the All-Star game this year. Jose Altuve is very obviously the best second baseman in the American League. It's been true for years, and that hasn't changed. And he doesn't have any trash cans now to bang, am I right? Third base is where things can definitely be the most debatable. The legal owner of the New York Yankees, Rafael Devers, has the highest OPS among AL third basemen. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has the second highest WAR among AL third basemen. Jordan Westburg's also been great. But I'm never going to complain about Jose Ramirez being the all-star starter over there. Shortstop is very obvious. Gunnar Henderson has been otherworldly, and it's insane because Bobby Witt Jr. has also been amazing. You look at his numbers and then Gunnar's, and it just makes Gunnar's that much more impressive. There's not much more Bobby could do. It just is what it is. Baltimore stays on top. The starting outfielder and DH is borderline perfect. It's the top 4 outfielders so far this year, with one of them just being chosen as the DH rather than playing the field. Now, the wins above replacement, aka WAR stat, which factors everything into one number of how valuable a player is good to look at, but also shouldn't be the number one thing to look at, I feel like. Carlos Correa might feel differently. That nerd loves WAR. But going back to third base really quick, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has a higher WAR than any third baseman in the American League other than one. Obviously, he's not the second best hitting third baseman, but when you factor everything like his elite defensive range, the fact that he rarely strikes out, his speed, you get the most valuable player. And valuable should be in quotation marks, because I'm pretty sure Jose Ramirez and Rafael Devers are better. That's how I feel, and I think most would too. Back to the outfield to start, Aaron Judge. Okay, obviously he's far and away the best, he's in. Then Juan Soto, obviously. But is it so obvious? If you base things just strictly off of WAR, Jarren Duran has been more valuable than Juan Soto. Juan Soto is obviously the far superior hitter, but Duran has more speed, better defense, stuff like that. Then you have Yordan Alvarez, who's the starting DH and someone who's played almost the exact amount of games as Soto, Judge, and Duran, but his WAR is way less. Now, he is mostly a DH, so he doesn't have nearly as much defensive playing time to add or take away from his WAR, but does that mean he's truly not as valuable as Duran or Soto? No, I don't think it does. So do with this information and with this stat as you will, but everyone in the outfield makes sense for the starters, except for the one that I will argue. Steven Kwan is a starter for the outfield, and it's for a reason. He leads baseball in batting average, has basically just as many walks as he does strikeouts, so the dude just doesn't strike out. Gets on base more than almost anyone. He's been fantastic. I'm going to get some hate for this, but Jarren Duran, I feel, deserves it a tad more. It's not even that I'm mad Quan is the starter. I just feel like Duran really deserves it. Quan obviously has better numbers, but he's also played in a lot less games, like more than 20 less games because he missed some time. And you can argue against this, but I feel like that's important to factor in. To be able to stay on the field every single day, which Duran has, he hasn't missed a single game, is so incredibly important, valuable, and something I feel like most people don't truly realize anymore. Quan has definitely earned it. don't get me wrong, but there's a reason Durant's been so valuable and did make it as a reserve, thankfully. So for the reserves next to Durant, his teammate Rafael Devers, Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez, Carlos Correa is the one twin. He's been great and back to one of the best shortstops in baseball. Josh Naylor has been good, along with his teammate David Fry as a DH reserve. Isaac Paredes is the lone Ray, Riley Green and Kyle Tucker, and Marcus Semien, which is where we get to maybe the biggest snub of this entire thing. Josh Smith. No, that's a real person, for those not aware. I didn't just ask an automatic generic name generator to give me the most generic American name ever. Josh Smith is a Rangers infielder who deserves being the Rangers representative way more than Semien. Although I do wonder how many Josh Smiths exist in the world. Someone go find that out and let us know in the comments. I love Marcus Semien, don't get me wrong, but Smith has been awesome and objectively better, so him not making it is wild. I mean, you can pretty easily argue he's been the best third baseman in the AL this year, so it's a bigger snub than Joker not winning Best Picture at the Oscars in 2019. For the pitching, which fans have zero say in, everyone who was voted in deserves it. Ronel Blanco not getting in is tough though, but everyone else making it is absolutely deserving. Tyler Anderson may be the most deserving of an all-star out of anyone. To be as good as he's been while simultaneously playing in the depths of hell, aka the Anaheim Angels, is maybe the most impressive thing this year. Tanner Houck making his first is cool. Mason Miller getting his first all-star selection as a rookie is also cool. Now on to the National League, where I have some stuff to say about a specific opinion by some fans that I just find to be wild. As for the starters, you can make the argument that Will Smith deserves it for the catching position, but William Contreras has also played in a dozen more games with stats almost just as good. Dodgers Will Smith still gets named an all-star, Contreras gets the start, Hollywood Will Smith is still a cuck. It all evens out in the end. And with Contreras specifically, it all makes sense now though, when you realize Wilson Contreras got hurt after a hot start to the season. Pretty wild for William to hire a hitman to hurt his own brother's chances just so he can be the all-star starting catcher, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do in this world, I respect it. Bryce Harper is the starter at first, and you can argue Freeman deserves it, but Harper's been amazing, and he's also Bryce Harper, so it's hard to not like him being a starter in the All-Star game, while Freeman still gets a reserve spot. Ketel Marte at second is great, being the 1D back representative, and it's really not that close. He's amazing. Ryan McMahon and Alec Bohm, aka Bomb, just to piss everyone off, are having almost identical seasons, and technically McMahon is having the better year, but because we're talking about the Rockies versus the Phillies here, obviously the Phillies player will get more votes. So Bomb gets the start, while McMahon still gets a deserving reserve spot. Trey Turner at short I don't love. He's arguably the best, but also missed so much time and has way less games played than Mookie, Ellie, CJ Abrams, but all those guys are reserves. Jurickson Profar gets named to his first All-Star team, which makes me so happy. Tatis gets voted in as a starter, although he won't be able to play because of injury. Christian Yelich is back to his MVP self, or at least as close to it as he's been in 5 years, which was the last time he made the All-Star team, 5 years ago in 2019. And for the biggest plot twist of this entire All-Star voting, to rival anything M. Night Shyamalan has ever come up with, Shohei Ohtani is the starting DH.
It's the mind-boggling, eye-popping, all-new Australia's Got Talent.
Luis Arraez should not have made the All-Star team. He should be replaced with Mason Wynn, which is where I get to the craziest take I've seen. The take that Francisco Lindor should be an All-Star. No. Lindor has been much better lately after his really bad start, but there are still 4 shortstops who've been better than him. 4! And that's just in the National League. And if you want to go based off of WAR and defense being vital, Matt Chapman deserves it over Lindor for an infield reserve spot. Same with Austin Riley and Christian Walker. I can go on.
I can do this all day.
I understand backing your guy, backing your player, as Mets fans should, but Francisco Lindor is not living up to his contract. Neither is he an all-star. Like, is he a good player? Yes he is, but he's not nearly worth north of $340 million. Not even close. Christian Walker isn't even getting paid $11 million to hit much better. Pete Alonso shouldn't be an all-star either, and I think Mets fans can actually acknowledge this. He's going to be in the home run derby again and look to commit an Anakin Skywalker on some children, but a guy like Walker deserves it more. Marcell Ozuna, obviously, he's been carrying the Braves offense harder than Heath Ledger carried the Dark Knight. Teoscar Hernandez has been good. Jackson Merrill gets his first All-Star selection. Same with Heliot Ramos in his first year, and Brian Reynolds. For the pitching, shout out Reynolds' teammate Paul Skeens. He's been in the big league for 2 months, was in college a year ago, and is already an All-Star. Well deserved. Chris Sale's back to being an All-Star for the first time since 2018. Been way too long, so it's good to see him back as he's been dominating. His teammate, Ronaldo Lopez, in his first year as a starter makes it. The man who tells Starbucks that his name is Mike, aka the throwing philosopher, aka Shota Imanaga, makes it, which I love. One of my favorite players in the game. 4 Phillies pitchers get named, a couple of starters, Zach Wheeler and Ranger Suarez and Jeff Hoffman, along with Matt Strom for the bullpen. Robert Suarez and Helsley as well, who are both really good. Tanner Scott is the one and only Marlins representative, aka the Make-A-Wish player. No, he actually has been really good. The Marlins, not so much. Billy the Marlin has gotten socked in the face many times this year, but Scott's actually been really good this year. Logan Webb for the Giants, and last but certainly not least, of course, you have the sex god himself. A few things probably will change from now until the All-Star Game rosters become official, but overall, I'd say these rosters are for the most part definitely fair. Not much to complain about other than me complaining about the people complaining that Lindor isn't an All-Star, and that Josh Smith, again, yes, a real person, was snubbed. Those are the two biggest things. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.